We live in a world that praises strength. A world where composure is mistaken for courage, where holding everything in is seen as discipline, and where falling apart feels like failure. You've been told to stay calm, stay steady, stay strong, to never let them see you crack, to never let your tears fall in public, to never admit you're tired, overwhelmed, or broken. But silence doesn't mean strength, and hiding doesn't mean healing. Sometimes keeping it together costs more than falling apart, because holding yourself so tightly can suffocate your soul. You wear the mask of calm, but your heart is trembling. You smile politely, but your chest feels heavy. You keep saying, "I'm fine," even when you're not. And the more you repeat it, the more you believe you must be. But your body knows, your heart knows, your trembling hands know, that you're carrying too much for too long. Falling apart is not weakness. It's your body's way of releasing what was never meant to stay buried. It's your soul's way of asking for breath. You don't always have to stand tall. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is collapse. Collapse into tears. Collapse into silence. Collapse into the honesty of not being okay. The world will tell you to toughen up, to keep smiling, to pull yourself together. But what if strength was not about holding, but about releasing? What if your cracks are not signs of failure, but openings for light? What if your tears are not shameful, but cleansing rivers? You've been taught to fear unraveling, as if falling apart means you'll never come back. But the truth is, you can break and still rebuild. You can fall and still rise. You can lose your shape and still find your way. Holding it together is exhausting. Pretending is suffocating. But falling apart allows you to breathe again. It lets you put down the weight you've carried. It gives you space to finally feel what you've been avoiding. The world may not understand your softness. They may mistake your tears for weakness. They may judge your vulnerability. But they don't know the quiet courage it takes to admit the truth. They don't know the bravery of whispering, "I can't do this alone." Falling apart doesn't mean you're broken. It means you're human. And humanity is messy, raw, imperfect. To be human is to feel deeply. To be human is to reach limits and crumble. To be human is to rebuild, again and again. You are not less because you fell apart. You are not weak because you cried. You're not failing because you unraveled. You are simply alive. And aliveness requires breaking as much as it requires healing. You don't have to keep it together all the time. No one was made to. Not even you. The pressure you feel to always be strong is not truth. It's a story you were taught, but stories can be rewritten. You can let go of that expectation and give yourself permission to soften. You can allow yourself to rest in your own fragility. The mask you wear is heavy. The armor you carry is suffocating. And the world doesn't need your armor as much as it needs your truth. Imagine how freeing it would be to set it down. Imagine how light your chest would feel if you stopped pretending. Imagine how safe your heart would be if you allowed yourself to break. Falling apart is not the end of your story. It's a pause, a breath, a surrender. It's a chance to be real, to stop fighting yourself, to let your heart exhale. You don't have to keep it together all the time. No one expects you to be invincible. No one can hold the world forever. Even the strongest arms grow tired. Even the brightest smiles eventually fade. Even the most composed voices shake. You are allowed to lay it all down. You are allowed to weep. You are allowed to shatter, because the pieces of you can be gathered again. And when they are, they will not be the same. They will be softer, wiser, stronger in ways you never imagined. But first, you must allow the breaking. First, you must give yourself permission to fall apart and trust that you will rise again, because you will. And when you do, you'll know the power of having fallen apart. You've been told to stay composed even when your heart trembles, to smile when sadness drags at the corners of your mouth, to nod politely even when rage swells inside. Holding it together becomes a performance, a quiet play you stage every day. No audience, yet the act continues. You hide your tears before they even form. You straighten your posture before anyone notices your slump. You swallow your words before they escape. This constant effort is invisible labor. It weighs more than people think. You carry it as if it's natural. But it isn't natural to silence your grief. It isn't natural to compress your joy. It It isn't natural to always pretend you're fine, yet the world rewards you for doing it. You're called strong for swallowing pain. You're praised for being unshaken. You're admired for never losing your composure. But no one sees the cracks. No one notices the silent battles. No one knows the cost of your mask. Your body knows, though. Your chest tightens when feelings are trapped. Your throat aches from words never spoken. Your shoulders sagged from emotions carried too long. The cost of holding it all in is heavy. It doesn't just live in your mind. It seeps into your muscles, your skin, your breath. And it whispers in the night when you're alone. Have you noticed the exhaustion after a day of pretending? The way sleep feels like it can't touch your restlessness? The way silence feels heavier than it should? This is the toll of emotional containment, a tax you pay for appearing together. It grows each time you refuse to fall apart. But falling apart is not failure. It's a release your body has been begging for. It's the soft undoing of years of tension. Falling apart doesn't mean you are broken. It means you are human. It means your body still trusts you enough to let go. You are not weak for weeping. You are not weak for trembling. You are not weak for showing the truth. The real weakness lies in denying yourself permission to feel, to break, to rebuild, because you cannot heal what you constantly hide. You cannot mend what you never allow to be seen. You cannot find freedom if you live behind a mask. Masks are meant for moments, not lifetimes. They protect, but they also suffocate. They shield, but they also isolate. They comfort, but they also cage. And when you never take it off, you forget your own face. You forget the softness that is yours. Forget the beauty of your own cracks, because perfection never lets the light in, but brokenness does. Falling apart opens the window. It lets breath rush back into your lungs. It lets truth settle into your bones. It lets love find its way to you. It's the cost of holding it all in is silence, and silence grows unbearable. But the gift of falling apart is relief, and relief is waiting for you. Not in more composure, not in more restraint, not in more pretending. Relief is waiting in softness, in shaking hands, in warm tears, in deep sighs. In the moment you say, I can't hold it anymore. That is where freedom begins. Not in holding, but in releasing. Not in silence, but in trembling words. Not in pretending, but in truth. Every time you fall apart, you are teaching yourself trust. Trust that your body knows what it needs. Trust that your heart can handle its weight. Trust that you will not stay shattered, because breaking is only a stage of becoming. Becoming requires softness. Becoming requires surrender. Becoming requires letting go of control. You do not need to stay composed. You do not need to keep every piece in place. You're allowed to scatter for a while. Allowed to drop the weight. Allowed to crumble into the truth. And in that crumbling, you are more whole than ever. Because nothing is more whole than a heart that is released. Nothing is more honest than tears shed freely. Nothing is more powerful than admitting, I need to fall apart. Nothing is more human. Falling apart does not mean you are broken. It means you are human. It means you have reached a point where your body and heart are asking for relief. Sometimes, tears are not weakness, but release. They are the storm that clears the air. They are the river that softens the hardened ground of your soul. You may fear what will happen if you let go. You may imagine that collapse will destroy you. But more often, collapse is the beginning of healing. Falling apart creates space for something new to grow. The strongest trees bend when the wind comes. They do not resist every gust. They sway and survive. You too are allowed to bend. You are allowed to tremble. You are allowed to not know what comes next. The world may tell you to hold everything together, to smile, to keep functioning, but pretending costs more energy than honesty. Hiding your hurt is heavier than carrying it openly. The truth is, falling apart is not the end of your story. It is simply another chapter. Chapter where you admit your humanity. Chapter where you allow yourself to feel. When you let yourself crumble, you let yourself rebuild. Every collapse clears the ground for something stronger. Every breakdown whispers, there is more to you than survival. You may not see it now. But what feels like ruin is often preparation. Falling apart strips away what is false, removes the masks you no longer need. It reveals the raw truth beneath the surface. And truth, though fragile, is powerful. When you fall apart, you are finally seen by yourself. You witness the parts you've ignored for too long. The anger, the grief, the exhaustion. All the emotions you tucked away because you thought they made you weak. But these emotions are not weakness. They are the evidence that you are alive, you care deeply, that you have endured. Letting yourself fall apart is the act of honoring these emotions. It is saying, I deserve to feel. I deserve to be real. The cracks that appear when you crumble are not flaws. They are invitations for light to enter. They are reminders that you cannot be perfect, and you do not have to be. Sometimes the most courageous thing you can do is to unravel, to put down the heavy burden of strength, to admit that you cannot carry everything alone. Falling apart teaches you humility. It teaches you that healing is not about control, but surrender. It is not about holding your breath through the storm, but letting the rain wash over you. You do not drown in the falling apart. You are cleansed by it. In those moments of collapse, you return to your most tender self, the self that longs to be held, the self that deserves comfort, not criticism. Falling apart gives you permission to ask for help, to whisper, I cannot do this alone. And in that whisper, connection blooms, because vulnerability calls others closer. It reminds them of their own humanity. Together you create a space of shared gentleness. Falling apart is a doorway, not a wall. It opens you to love, to compassion, to growth. To fall apart is to return to your core, to remember that you were never meant to be flawless, or meant to be real. The world does not need your perfection. The world needs your truth, and truth is often born in the cracks. So let yourself unravel, let yourself break. Not because you are weak, but because you are alive. Because you are brave enough to stop pretending. Falling apart is not your failure, it is your freedom. Your freedom to let go of masks. Your freedom to feel fully. Your freedom to begin again. You are not ruined by collapse, you're remade by it. Each fall is a return to your soul. Each crack is a reminder of your resilience. Even when you are in pieces, you are whole. Even when you are undone, you are worthy. Falling apart may look like the end, but it is also the beginning of deeper honesty, the beginning of gentler living, the beginning of being seen as you are. So do not fear the collapse. Welcome it as a teacher. Welcome it as a turning point. Falling apart shows you the parts of yourself you have long abandoned. It gathers them back together, slowly, tenderly, until you realize that nothing has truly been lost. You are still here, still breathing, and that is enough. We are often told to be strong, as if strength means never breaking. But what if strength is not in holding everything together, but in knowing when to let go? Falling apart can feel like failure, but it is often the first step toward becoming whole again. Like a storm that clears the sky, your breakdown can bring a new clarity. The pieces you thought were broken might be rearranging into something more true. Falling apart is not the end. It is a beginning, disguised in chaos. When your heart trembles, it is not weakness, it is honesty. When your tears fall, they are cleansing what words could not. The world tells you to hide your cracks, but your cracks let the light in. They reveal that you are alive, vulnerable, human. Some people will only see the mess, not the meaning. But that does not mean your unraveling has no value. It means you are shedding what no longer fits. It means you are finding a truer shape beneath the surface. Just as a seed must break open to grow, so must we sometimes split apart. Falling apart is how the new self takes root. It is how buried feelings rise to be seen and healed. It is how the soul breathes after being suffocated by silence. What looks like collapse may be the soul's quiet rebirth. It is the body whispering, "You cannot carry this weight anymore." And in that whisper lies an invitation to rest instead of run, to pause instead of perform, to surrender instead of pretend. You do not need to keep every piece in place. You do not need to hold up a world that is too heavy. You're allowed to put it down. You're allowed to let it fall. The pieces will not disappear. They will wait for you. They will be there when you are ready to rebuild. When you rebuild, you will not be the same. You will be softer, more spacious, more open, because falling apart has taught you what matters. It has shown you that perfection is not required for love. That brokenness can be beautiful when it makes you real. That strength can look like softness, and courage can look like tears. You are not meant to live without cracks. You are meant to live with them, as proof of your humanness. Each crack tells a story, each scar holds a truth. Together, they weave the map of your becoming. Falling apart is not the opposite of strength. It is the foundation of a different kind of strength. Strength rooted in honesty, not armor. In presence, not perfection. In surrender, not control. This strength cannot be shaken by life, because it is born of life. It is built from the pieces you dared to drop. It is made from the truth you let rise. Falling apart is simply part of the journey of being whole. And wholeness is not the absence of cracks, but the embrace of them. After the storm, there is a silence. It is the quiet after the breaking, when the pieces settle on the ground. This is not emptiness. It is space. Space for something new to grow. Space for you to choose again. You don't have to rush to gather every broken piece. You don't have to build yourself back in a single day. Healing is not a race. It is a rhythm, slow rhythm, patient and kind. One small breath, one small step at a time. Rebuilding is not about becoming who you used to be. It is about discovering who you are now. Because the person before the fall and the person after are not the same. The breaking has changed you. And that change is not your ruin, it is your becoming. You are allowed to rebuild differently this time. You are allowed to choose softness over strength. To choose honesty over perfection. To choose rest over endless striving. To build a life that feels lighter, more true. Perhaps you no longer want to carry what once seemed essential. Perhaps you no longer fit the shape others expect of you. That is not weakness. It is growth. Falling apart has stripped away the illusions. Now you can see what matters with clearer eyes. Some pieces will return to you. Others will be left behind. This is not loss. It is transformation. You are not less because you've shed old parts. You are more because you are becoming real. Think of kintsugi, the art of mending broken pottery with gold. The cracks do not disappear. They shine brighter. The vessel is not ruined, it is made more precious. You are the same. Your cracks are not flaws. They're light. And as you rebuild, you will carry this truth. You do not have to be whole to be worthy. You do not have to be perfect to be loved. You do not have to be unbroken to belong. You only need to be honest, gentle, and alive. Falling apart has given you a gift. The gift of starting again with open hands. The gift of choosing what stays and what goes. The gift of remembering that strength is softer than you thought. The gift of living more fully than before. Rebuilding is not about hiding the cracks. It is about living with them, letting them breathe. Because in their openness, life pours through. And that life is your proof survived. And now slowly, you are becoming whole in a new way. Let us end where we began, with the truth that you do not have to hold everything together. The world has taught you to hide your cracks, to wear masks, to keep smiling, to pretend you are fine. But pretending is heavy, and you deserve lightness. The power of falling apart is that it frees you. It frees you from perfection. It frees you from the endless performance of strength. It frees you from carrying a weight that was never meant to be yours. Falling apart is not failure. It is release. Every tear you shed is a cleansing. Every moment you allow yourself to be real is a kind of healing. Vulnerability is not weakness. It is truth. And truth always has a way of mending what lies could not. You're not breaking down. You're breaking open. To fall apart is to trust that you do not have to rebuild alone. That there are hands waiting to hold the fragments. That there are hearts willing to sit with your silence. That love can reach you even in your darkest hour, especially in your darkest hour. Remember this, the strongest people are not those who never fall apart. They are the ones who have allowed themselves to fall and rise again. The ones who do not pretend to be untouched by life. The ones who carry their scars with gentleness. And by doing so, remind us that we are not alone. You are allowed to lay the burden down. You are allowed to say, I am not okay. You are allowed to need time, need space, need help. These are not admissions of defeat. They are acts of courage. And when you do rise again, and you will not be because you forced yourself to. It will be because you gave yourself permission to rest, to feel, to heal. Rising will not be your punishment. It will be your gift. A gift you gave yourself by daring to be vulnerable, by daring to fall apart. So let yourself unravel when you need to. Let the walls crumble. Let the tears come. Let yourself be seen in all your humanness. You do not need to be perfect to be loved. You do not need to be strong to belong. You do not need to keep it together to be worthy. The truth is, you are already enough. Even in pieces. Especially in pieces. Falling apart is not the end of your story. It is the page that turns. The breath between chapters. The pause before new life begins. And when it does, you will see you were never broken. You were becoming. This is quiet philosophy, where thinking isn't loud, and life doesn't need to be either. Subscribe if you haven't already, not for noise, but for something you can actually feel.